Welcome to the WalaWay. This is Imran Lawal, and I'm here with a very special guest, the one and only Mr. Husain Abdullah. Well, you're the only Husain Abdullah that we know, right?
There's probably a million of us. Husain Abdullah is a very common name.
But a million Husain Abdullahs that are former NFL players and community activists and entrepreneurs.
Okay. That might be the only one.
So we got Husain here today, who has been so gracious to offer us his time and some of his wisdom. So Husain, we're gonna go straight into it.
Okay.
Former NFL player, but let's start before that. You were a high school star. No,
I was all right.
Okay. But talk to us, because I've interviewed now individuals from the NBA, and I'm always focused on like what made them transcend.
Yeah.
Because now we have AAU for basketball, and we have YouTube, and kids can watch YouTube videos and work on their moves.
Right.
But back when I was growing up, and I'm assuming, I think you're 85?
I'm 85.
I'm 86. So when we were growing up, if you didn't have a VHS, there was no other way of basically watching tape. So what were some of the things that you were doing as maybe a middle schooler and high schooler that made you elevate your game at that point?
Yep. So for one, in middle school, we just played outside, man. Like, it didn't matter if we was playing wiffle ball, if we were playing basketball, we were playing football, soccer. Like, it didn't matter playing. If we just racing, you know what I mean? We just played, right? And I think a lot of kids, they don't just play. Everything's training, and you miss the fun, right? And some people don't develop the love for the game. They see the work ethic side, but not just fun and the love. And so middle school, man, we were just playing. Things really didn't shift for me until high school. My freshman year of high school, my older brother Hamza was a senior, and it was Hamza's first year of high school public high school after we were homeschooled. They did, Hamza and Hadra, my two older brothers and sisters, they went to Mount Sac, so they went to a junior college, right? So we finally convinced our parents to allow us to go to high school. We get in there, and at the time we had an All-American at our school, right? Pomona High School, Pomona, California, hood school, right? Crazy dropout rate, crazy, gang violence, drug violence. I mean, it's the 90s, right? 90s into the 2000s. It's kind of just the era. It's kind of what it was. And so everybody was coming all over to see Jimmy Verdon, right? A good friend of ours. And so they're coming to see Jimmy, and Hamza was just balling, right? So they're coming to see number 7, but they're like, who the heck is number 5, right? Hamza was just playing. And so for me, as a freshman, I think when I first started my freshman year, I was like 110 pounds, super skinny, short. I played running back in Pop Warner. I definitely wasn't going to play running back in high school where everybody was a lot bigger. And I had a coach, Wardale Crutchfield, defensive back coach. And he said, hey, come here, can you play corner? I was like, yeah, I mean, you just guard the guy. I can do that. Like, just run where he runs, right? And so he came, and he just really just like started speaking life into me, right? And then so I seen Hamza and Jimmy getting recruited, and I was like, man, that's kind of cool, play college ball. And for me at the time, UCLA was like my dream school. And so when I seen UCLA come on campus, I said, okay, it's time to get serious, right? And so Jimmy eventually got a scholarship to Arizona State. Hamza got a scholarship to Washington State. And from that point on, for me, it was like, I got to make it out. And so to me, I wasn't the best player on my high school team. I wasn't the most athletic. I wasn't the biggest one. I wasn't the strongest one. I wasn't the fastest one. Probably one of the smartest ones. I would say that, football IQ and whatnot. But I definitely wasn't like the star out of everybody. But I think my drive and determination to want better for myself is what helped me go to the next level.
Okay, so on one hand, you're saying that, which is really good general advice, that maybe what's lacking from today's age is that just play.
Yeah.
Where kids can go out and just have fun, and maybe even during the play, you start noticing things about yourself, right?
Yep.
Or I got quick hands, or I'm good at anticipating whatever the offense, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, whatever it is doing. Now, talk about the drive, the determination, the grit. I can't act like I didn't hear you say that the school had a certain environment, high dropout rate. So that comes with certain assumptions. So what was leading you? What was driving you? Like, what did you want better for yourself, your family?
Yeah, man, life, like, right? Like, if you born in SoCal, if you're born in Southern California in the 80s, born in LA, I mean, I mean, you was kind of born on the front lines, if you will, right? Crack epidemic destroyed everything. The over-policing and the police brutality, and then the rise of gangs really took a number on everybody, right? And so, you know, all of us, we wanted better, right? And we had seen, whether it's fathers, uncles, cousins, brothers, mothers, whatever it may be, we've seen people go left, and we're like, we want better for ourselves, right? And so the drive was just to be better, and we knew that education would help us do that. And we're like, man, we ain't paying for school. We want to go to school for free, right? Like we're going to be able to have fun and then, you know, get our school paid for. And so it was just a different level of a work ethic, because only like 1% of kids make the jump from high school to D1, right? Maybe less than that. And so in order to be a 1%er, you gotta study like one. You gotta work out like one. You gotta approach the game like one. And so, yeah, man, just like the gear just shifted, and I was like, I'm trying to do better.
Okay, so that's very important that you brought that up. So you brought up the social circumstances and the fact that you wanted to get better, and then the gear shifted and you're focused. But how easy is it to get distracted while at college and university, and now you have this opportunity, but now because you're independent and, you know, there's many things that are available to you now that were not available to you before. How easy is it to kind of fall down that rabbit hole and just get lost?
Yeah, I mean, so for one, right, Pomona is an awesome place, right? But Pomona has a lot of negativity around it, right? And so, one, we learned how to stay like, I mean, it was like walking a tightrope. So we had to walk a tightrope in order to be able to make it next level, right? So in going to school, I eventually got a scholarship to Washington State University, where my brother Hamza was there. And so on the same team, we got to play. And that was another thing. It was our first time playing on the same team. So that was awesome. But then when you get to college, I mean, everything is there, right? You got, I mean, drugs, alcohol, men, women, every single thing is there, right? And then if you have a game, if you go ball on ESPN, you big man on campus, oh, you best believe everybody can't wait for you to show up, right? And so you can see people get distracted quickly, but I always advise people never make the big mistakes, right? All of us gonna make mistakes. And you can open the Quran and nowhere in the Quran does Allah say, be perfect. Doesn't exist. If it does, you show me the ayah where he says be perfect, right? What he does say is ask for forgiveness, right? Follow up a bad deed with a good deed, right? Correct your ways, repent and correct your ways, right? And so for me, it was always about Islam being the guide to help me understand boundaries to keep me going straight, right? And I think that's what a lot of people, miss is they hold themselves accountable only when someone else does, when coach does, when mom or dad does, when my friends finally get tired of putting up with my BS, right? But they don't have that thing to where they hold themselves accountable. And so you enter Allah into the picture, you enter Islam into the picture, to where now, even though it's just me in my apartment, I know that God is watching me. I know what I'm doing. So therefore, I have this choice. Do I continue doing wrong, or do I go down a straight path? And so that helped me out a lot.
What's interesting, when you talk to people who are high performers and they have a faith background, especially I'm going to be specific, being Muslims. In the West, there's this cognition amongst some circles that Muslims are violent or extreme, or, you know, they lean one way. And then amongst sometimes people within the faith community, there's this belief that, you know, you can't play competitive sports, right? Or because of whatever reasons. And it's all about just the ritualized prayers, right? Not knocking that. But
call it what it is. It's bad.
So what's interesting is every time I meet high-performing Muslims, the call is always to balance.
Yep.
And so can you kind of speak on that a little bit? Because it's like I said, for me, my whole life I grew up with non-Muslims, right?
Yep.
So they don't really have a understanding of what Islam is. But for me, I hate to say it like this, and maybe it's a bad example, but I think of like Star Wars, the Jedi, like this balance of the Force. So it's like always there's this even keel balance, not supposed to get too high, not supposed to get too low, not to get too happy, not get too sad, never get, not get angry. So any comments on that?
Yeah, right. Like we pray 5 times a day, but we ain't supposed to pray all day. We're supposed to live, right? There's supposed to be life. We're supposed to go out into this world, and we should be at the forefront of anything that's good. It doesn't matter what it is, right? If we're in medicine, then we should have the best medical practices, right? If we're in finance, if we're in logistics, if we're teachers, if we're in athletics, no matter what it is, if we're in architecture or engineering, we should be the best, right? And if there's any kind of industry that's off, then when Muslims enter it, we should be the caliph of that industry, and we should correct it. Now, for the people who just, stay inside and whether it's nonstop prayer or reading, no knock on them, man. Everybody has a different spiritual journey, right? And that's for some, but it's not for everybody. And that's definitely not the way the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu that's not the way he lived. That brother was active. He was husband, father, grandfather, community member. He's a leader of a nation, right? He's doing international relations as a delegate, right? He's a commander in chief, right? He didn't just bury himself in the mosque, right? And again, for those people, it's no knock on them. It's just saying that that's not everybody. Everybody, we can't do anything. We can't win playing ball like that, if you will. And then for those people who are saying, the people who don't have any kind of faith background, religious background, understanding guide, a lot of times it's because they don't want to acknowledge their own wrongdoings, right? I don't like it. I'm pretty sure you don't like it, where you do something, you're like, your wife can say something, your brother, you can be like, man, forget y'all. But when you get home, you got to look at that mirror, you did wrong. When we get to that realization point, Islam tells us to correct that, right? Because we know if we don't correct it, we're showing up on the day of judgment, we got to answer for that. So then we go back, we apologize, we repent, we do better to change our ways, whatever it may be, right? And it helps strike a balance, right? Whether it's how we dress, how we talk, the places that we frequent, whatever it may be. But yeah, man, Islam is the middle path. We shouldn't be left, we shouldn't be right, we should be right there down the middle.
What's interesting, again, based on what you just said, is that this call for introspection in Islam, right?
Yep.
Where you're supposed to self-reflect. And what I tell people is that anything that's generally Islamic value or true in Islam, it's a universal principle, right? So if you look at introspection, where does introspection fail you? So if you're someone who's aspiring to be a premier athlete, you have to have that honest conversation with yourself, right?
You better, because when they put that film on you, and when they say, Husain, well, why did you do this? Oh, I didn't do that. Oh, you didn't? And they rewind it, and you're like, and the whole team see it, right? And then the whole stadium see it. 39. Or when you get put on Sports Center, you better correct yourself, or you ain't gonna be out there that long, right? It's the same thing as a Muslim, as a human being. If you're not in a constant state of reflection in how you can improve yourself and your worship with Allah, just being a better human being, how can I be a better husband, a better father, a better neighbor, a better just member of society? If you're not doing that, you got a problem, right? And so again, I think that's one of the beauties of Islam. It has us do that consistently. And in the Quran, Allah says a lot. There's a lot of different ayats. I'm not a hafiz of Quran. I read the Quran more in English than I do in Arabic, because that's what I know. And so I read a lot of English translation. I read a lot of tafsir in English. And there's tons of ayats of Quran where Allah says, this is for people who reflect, right? This is for people who, people who reflect, people who ponder, people who think, And I'm like, okay, well, I want to be one of those people, right? Like, you're talking to me. So therefore, I got to do what Allah's commanded me to do. And I think it just leads you down this continuous effort for self-improvement.
So now that we're on this topic, let's continue on it, but then we'll go backwards again.
Yeah.
So before we get into like the beginning of the NFL journey, a famous story involving you is that when you and your brother are within your NFL journeys, you decide to take the season off and go for the Islamic pilgrimage.
Yeah.
So what was the catalyst behind that decision? Well, how, like this is not the pinnacle of what people desire, right?
Yeah.
I want to make it. I want to get that money. I want to be famous. And then at the height of it, you decide to.
Yeah, man. So this is very interesting. And Hamza and I, we've been talking a lot about this. Been talking with my wife a lot about this because we're like 10 years removed from this was the training camp going into that season before we took off the following one, right? And so unknowingly, this was Hamza's last training camp. This is my last training camp with the Vikings going into the 10 years ago. And so there was a lot going on, just a lot of life, right? A lot of things in life, personal life, extended family life, our own nuclear families. And the biggest thing was just a need for more guidance, more than anything, right? We always believed in Allah. We believed in the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It seemed like we were doing the right thing, but nothing was ever changing. And we're like, Hamza used to call it being on a hamster wheel. Like, no matter how hard I work, everything stays the same. Or you try to fix some different situations here and there, but it seems like nothing is changing. And so we was having a lot of these different conversations. At this point, this is Hamza's 7th year in the league. This is my 4th year in the league. And we had a lot of different conversations. And we wanted to go for Umrah the year before, and it didn't happen. And I don't know, man. It was just something deep down inside. I was like, we just got to go, right? And so my 4th year in the league, I had 2 concussions, like back-to-back consecutive weeks. Ended up on IR for like 8 weeks, the longest I ever missed playing football. And so during that time, just again, a lot of reflection, a lot of thinking about life. A lot of the CTE conversation was coming up. A lot of former players, or I shouldn't say a lot, but there were some notable former players that committed suicide, and one of them was Junior Seau. And so if you're from SoCal, your kid, Junior Seau was the man, from USC to playing for the Chargers. And so that one hit a little bit different, right? And so I was like, I'm not dying for the sake of football, right? My life means more than just ball, right? This has always been a tool. It's always been a means to improve myself, my family, my surroundings, help me educate myself, and kind of change my life trajectory, right? That's what this always has been. And so during that time, I was like, let's go for Umrah. So March 2012, we went for Umrah. Came back, started doing the same thing, working out and everything, but it was just like my agent was calling me like, okay, was saying, you can sign with this team, this team, this team, they all want you to bring you in, work you out, everything. I was just like, we're gonna go for Hajj, right? Hajj is in October. He was like, man, my agent was like, it's gonna be tough, right? I don't know if teams are gonna sign you when you get back. We're like, it's cool, right? I mean, if I'm good with Allah, I'm good, right? And so there was a lot of people saying, oh, they're stupid, right? Leaving off their careers, once in a lifetime, all these different things. They were like, all right, they don't understand it. I think it was kind of a little bit when Muslims were saying, what are you doing? You should wait till you're older. It's like, I could die tomorrow, right? Like my step-pops, may Allah have mercy on him. He started to say, boy, you could walk outside and get hit by a bus. I'm like, dang, why you say something like that? But the reality is, we don't know when we're going to die. And so we're like, no, we're going to go for Hajj. Allah says, you walk towards me, I'll run towards you. So I was like, all right, we're going to fly to this house, right? We will go over there, we're going to go for pilgrimage, and we're going to go in full submission, seeking guidance. And so, it was a life-altering moment, but it was really refocusing what life should be about and repurposing everything.
In one of your earlier interviews, you were talking about provisions, and you're talking about, so in Islam we have this concept of that God is the provider and the sustainer, right? And He provides our provisions to us. Obviously, we work,
Yep.
but our provisions are written for us.
Yep.
So can you kind of like just touch upon that real quick? Because that's very like, I think for a non-faith-based community, man, that's very powerful.
Yep. Yeah, like, I mean, everything that we've ever gotten has always been written for us, right? Allah knows, we don't know. So I can try to start, 1,000,001 different businesses, have the greatest idea, put in all this hard work, and not see a dime if it ain't written for me. Or I could have, some little whatever idea making plastic cups. And if it was written for me to be a billionaire, I'm gonna be a billionaire selling plastic cups. And so for me, I was like, okay, well, people are saying, you shouldn't go because the money. It's like, if Allah wants me to have money, I'm gonna get it one way or another, right? Like it's going to happen. And if He doesn't want me to see another penny, it's not gonna happen. And so I'd rather place my trust in Allah than I will with these random people who are just random critics and they really don't care, right? I know that Allah loves His servants and Allah loves those who love Him. So therefore, I'm rolling with that.
Thank you for sharing. So now let's go back to like another I guess more wisdom that we can learn is you said something when we met a couple of weeks ago, 3-4 weeks ago at the basketball camp, and it was about the nature of the business. And I think I brought up to you like some of the criticisms that like LeBron James and Kevin Durant and these guys get for making their own decisions. And I've been a critic of theirs from an external lens, right? Because sometimes we don't really know what's going on behind the scenes and we don't really understand what they're going through in their lives. And you related a really amazing story, which I'm going to butcher, so I'll let you tell it. But it was about high school and the people you know in high school, and then the difference, comparing that to the guys that you know in college, and then the guys that you know in the NFL. And then you gave an amazing story of like one of your first days, something happened in the locker room.
Oh, yeah. So, high school is cool because, it's your boys. It's your childhood friends, and it's dope. Y'all walk to school together, you walk home together, you go to class together, right? So high school is real cool. College is dope because, especially as a football player, you probably spend 18 hours a day with other with your teammates. So like the bond and the brotherhood you form is like forever, right? Like you cannot talk to someone for 3 years, 5 years, but the second y'all see each other, it's like y'all sophomores again in college because it's like we spend that much time together. Now when you get to the league, man, it's a business. It's a flat out business, and just the story that you were talking about was I think it was like my second or third year in the league playing for the Vikings, and I walk in and the guy's locker that's right next to mine is just going, hey, what's going on? How's everything? Yada yada yada. Go to morning meetings and then come back. It's a new dude in the locker. It's like, dang, they cut such and such. All right, hey man, what's going on? My name's Husain. How's everything? Yada yada. Go to practice, come back. It's a new dude in the locker. It's like, dang, they cut him that fast? Hey man, my name is Husain. Like, that's the way it works, right? A lot of people think that everybody has these 20-year careers, like Brady or something like that, or everybody has these. No, man, those are anomalies, right? You have people who don't make it days in the NFL, and I'm pretty sure basketball is the same way, especially with the reduced roster. And so you got to be the 1% of the 1% in order to make it, and then to stay in there, right? The NFL, in order to be a vested veteran, you got to be, like 3 years and 3 games? There's tons of people who don't make that, ever don't make that. And so you got to be able to play to survive. And so when people take on a business mindset about the NFL, it's gonna piss fans off. Yeah, that's because fans listen to the media, and who in the media? They work for the teams. They all work together. So, as players started to evolve, right? 60s is just do whatever. 70s, 80s, 90s is when you start seeing unions start saying, no, we ain't doing that. We doing this. 90s, mid 90s, late 90s, 2000s, and so athletes started to become more business savvy. And now athletes are awesome, right? Very business savvy. But yeah, you gotta take care of yours because they don't care, right? Kansas City Chiefs still gonna be there. Husain gonna be in and out, right? Next person in and out, and they care while you performing. The second your play, if this is your contract and this is your play, the second the contract is here and your play is here, you're gone. It's that simple.
It's interesting because I don't know if you mess with this guy, but I've actually taken a liking to what he's been saying for the last few months. Kwame Brown, I don't know if you remember him, former first round draft pick in the NBA. So his the channel name he has on YouTube is actually called like Bus Life. Like he's mimicking what people call him, right?
Okay.
But he's built a platform around his name based on things that have happened in the media against him, right?
Okay.
So one of his points he was talking about LeVar Ball is that, you know, you see what the media did with LeVar Ball. But what was LeVar Ball really doing? He was trying to prop up his 3 sons. He says that he said it, as a black man in America, when I see a black father trying to prop up his sons, he said, that's beautiful.
That's awesome.
But what did the media do? The media spanned it. They called him crazy. And now you see all 3 kids are in the NBA. His third just got signed. You know, he's on the summer league, but he's probably going to make it to the final roster. But now that narrative is almost changed, right? Where because LeVar Ball stayed his course and he tried to fulfill his vision, he's not even talked about anymore.
Yeah, it was. I think CC Sabathia recently talked about baseball, and he was like, baseball needs to adopt black culture quick because it's dying. And he talked about how when people say he played the game the right way, they really mean the white way, right? And so kind of the same thing. LeVar Ball, you always heard it, oh, I like what he's doing, but he's doing it wrong. Well, why? How? What's the rule book? He's trying to get his sons to the league, all 3 of them, right? And he had 2 top 3 picks, right? And then now Jello is working to get in there. He did awesome. Awesome. I don't care what you. He did awesome.
His own brand, his own basketball league.
And Melo owning teams in Australia and this and that. Like, just their mindset is completely different because they have an entrepreneurial mindset, right? And so, again, other people may not like it, but they eating, right? People can sit there on the couch and complain about this and that. What you doing for yourself?
Eating and feeding others.
right? Yeah. And so, no, he did a good job standing up there, taking a lot of bullets. He talked a lot of trash and they backed it up, right? And so, no, I mean, you take your hats off to people like that, right? Yeah.
Again, good point, because we don't have to touch upon this point too much, but I was, again, doing some research, and, you know, you had a pick 6 against Tom Brady, famous, and you went into prostration in the end zone, and there was a flag, right? Was it unsportsmanlike conduct, or what was it?
I don't know what they call it. They rescinded it. I was just, you know, I've always been a team player, so my initial thought was, man, I hope this doesn't affect the team, right? That's all I could really think of. We was rolling that game too. We was smashing them. So I knew it wasn't going to have any major impact on the game. So to be honest with you, I wasn't even tripping until after the game. I got a call from my agent, and he was like, Husain, you know they're going to fine you. I was like, yeah, right. They're going to fine me for what? He's like, yeah, if you get an unsportsmanlike penalty, they'll fine you. I was like, no, they ain't. And I will say thank you to everyone. Thank you to everyone who supported me. Everybody, I'm talking about around the world via social media. I'm talking about hit up the NFL so much that first thing 6 a.m. in the morning, they're like, oh, we rescind the flag. We're not going to do a fine or whatever. So I didn't even have to go through no process or nothing. You
see what Jalen Rose said, right, when it happened? Do you remember? So Jalen Rose basically put out some tweets, and he was saying that Tim Tebow does his thing and there's no problems.
Oh, yep.
Because, you know.
There's a lot of people, there's a lot of people having the different debates and different things. And I think for me, I kind of just stay silent on the topic because it's kind of like art, right? It means something different to different people, right? And so I wouldn't want to say something I know what it meant for me personally, but for someone else, I got people hit me up in France, people hit me up in Indonesia, people from Africa, right? People from the States. The way some people hug me is just it meant something different to everybody else. And so therefore, I just let it stand. Hopefully Allah accepts it. That's what I was after. No, man, awesome. And it's interesting because it looks like you take a different view of things in terms of the way you are self-critical and you analyze things. And with that, and based on the interview where you were giving the advice that Kaepernick should actually be an executive, I think that's a beautiful transition to talk about
your own transition where, okay, you were willing to walk away from the sport, but now you've fit in so well into entrepreneurship. We're sitting in your office.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to us a little bit about the entrepreneurial gene,
Mm-hmm.
like the again, just like we talked about the NFL and your skill set.
Yeah.
What was the catalyst for the entrepreneurial gene? And talk to us a little bit about what you're doing nowadays.
Yeah, so entrepreneurship is it's our family. So my mother and father, they got divorced when I was young. My mother married my pops. I like to say pops instead of stepdad, right? I believe it's a higher honor than that, right? Stepdad has a negative connotation, right? But the things that he did, I mean, I like to see anybody else who calls himself a man do something like that. And so, you know, when my pops and my mother first got married, I mean, he started off like mowing lawns, right? And then it was from mowing lawn, or I'm sorry, he started off newspaper route, right? Like newspaper route. Then he started off, then it was mowing lawns. Then it was, then we started doing like painting and doing different things. And so like, he was just always hustling, like a halal hustler, right? His previous life was his previous life, right? So now I'm Muslim, so okay, so how do I make this thing halal? And so he was always an entrepreneur, and he was just always going, right? And so, I mean, for us, it was kind of like, all right, this how you eat, right? This how you feed the family, right? Entrepreneurship is you eat what you kill, right? If you ain't putting in no work, well, I guess we're going to be hungry until we go catch or something, right? And if you bring home squirrels and you got a big family, you better get back out there and go get that deer, or you better go bag that moose, whatever it may be, right? And so that's kind of where the entrepreneurship came from us, as just watching his hustle. And so when it came time for me to let go of football and retire, I mean, a lot of my coaches, some of the GMs and stuff, they're like, come coach, right? Come be a scout, come coach. And it's fun. Like, I love it, right? But I want to try something different, right? I want to try something different. I want to try my hand at something different. And I really wanted to, I really like working with people. And I like seeing people achieve and reach their goals. And I wanted to do that outside of the arena of football, right? I want this. It's kind of like, okay, I've climbed this mountain. I know I can do that. Can I go climb another one, right? And so after retiring, which was in 2016, I went to grad school. I got my master's in conflict resolution, which also helped change the way I think a little bit. Graduated in 2018. Then I got into logistics, running some like different trucks and stuff with Amazon. So I've been doing that since, or that company's been running since 2018. And then in between, I coach a lot of people. I coach a lot of executives, a lot of leadership coaching, executive coaching. I love helping startups. Like, I mean, startups about their business. Some people just want to talk, and you got to really be about your business, right? But I love helping people. I love the startup grind. I think it's dope. I love scaling things. I love tech startups. It's fun. So yeah, man, I'm just always rolling, right? Like my board has a bunch of stuff on it. My mind has a bunch more. There's some different things that we want to do. My brother and I, Hamza, to impact the Muslim community at large. So it's like, we're just always working. I mean, just staying purposeful. I think one thing that I take away from the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is that, like, he didn't waste time. He was always purposeful, right? He wouldn't just sit on no couch watching Netflix. He wasn't just stuffing his face, just blowing hot air into the world. He was always purposeful, and so I'm always trying to fill my day with purposeful things.
So give us just, and we'll end here. But now you have kids. Mashallah, it seems like you're raising them the right way, and we're just
Inshallah,
inshallah,
yeah.
But I'm saying, I saw the boy hooping at the basketball camp, and very respectful and very hungry. So give us some wisdom from someone who's made it again to the upper echelons of sports, and someone now who is in entrepreneurship and doing conflict resolution and leadership coaching. What advice do you have to parents in terms of those who are kind of stuck with the fixed mindset of this is the way to educate children?
Yeah.
And this is the system that they need to follow.
So specifically to parents, and I think this could be used for anybody, but I'll try to start general and then get more specific. But the very first thing is stop lying to yourself. Too many people lie to themselves consistently. And they lie to themselves to the point to where they believe it, right? When Allah talks in the Quran about the people who are delusional, that's y'all. Whoever it is that won't face reality, that's who he's talking about. People who lie to the point to where they believe the lie. And so, be honest, like, man, I don't live in whatever country anymore. I live in America, right? So how do I experience life, and how do I experience life as a Muslim in America? How are my children experiencing life? And how do we accommodate for that, right? If you go to any country, any Muslim country in the world, Islam came to the country. No country was born into Islam, right? Because it was revealed and everybody had to accept it. All of the Sahabi are technically converts, right? Somebody said, hey, look, man, we have to figure out a way to create a boundary, right? The boundary being what is haram, right? And then when we create the boundary, everything that's here, we can do it, right? I always tell the children, we talk about basketball, right? Say, hey, look, if we playing basketball and you run out of bounds, can I pass you the ball? They're like, no. So what do you got to do? I got to come back in bounds, then you can pass. Okay, so this thing is called Islam, right? This is the boundary. Stay in bounds. It really is that simple. If you ever find yourself out of bounds, just come back in bounds. Don't go out of bounds and then run off to the tunnel and run out the stadium. Just come back, right? And so for parents who are here, you have to learn how to play ball in America because your children are on the fly. And if you ain't supporting them, you actually working against them, right? What would that look like as any kind of a athlete or even as a job? If you're trying to do your job and your boss is impeding you doing your job. If I'm an athlete and I'm trying to do something, but my coach is impeding my success. Now I'm going against my opponent, my coach, the refs, right? There's already so much going on via social media, regular media, any kind of racism, bigotry, whatever ism you want to throw out there that America is always trying to sweep under the rug as if we don't got it, but we do, right? There's already all those enemies. I don't need my parents against me too, right? And so people got to wake up. If they don't know what to do, you ask, right? It's okay. Hey, I think it says one of the cures for ignorance is asking questions. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what this thing called basketball is. Why do my children love it so much? Go get with somebody who knows, right? If my neighbor, Wade, when I was in Minnesota, white guy, he was a lawyer, he was like, yeah, he said, if I'm gonna hang around with white guy lawyers like me, I'm never gonna expand my horizons, right? He's like, and if you only hang out with football players, you're never gonna expand your horizons. So me and Wade, we used to always talk all the time, right? White guy, grew up in Minnesota. I'm black kid from California, coming from two different worlds now. We're neighbors. And so now I get to learn from him, he gets to learn from me. And so if I'm, whether I'm African, Arab, Desi, South Pacific, whatever it may be, Hispanic, and I don't know what's going on, let me talk to that person and talk to this person and talk to that person. Then you can start to say, okay, now I see how they see the world. Maybe there's some things that I can take. Maybe there's some things that I don't really like or it won't fit us, whatever it may be. But stop lying to yourself.
Thank you. A lot of benefit from our interview today. It went in a lot of directions, which
I'm all over.
No, man, it was great, man. It's a lot of wisdom. I think we're definitely gonna have a round two. And I would say that it's very impressive how you've just gone from one phase to another, and I think it's a great case study that, if someone really wants to elevate their status, there is a recipe. I think that the Netflix, and I don't know what you said before that, but you basically said you're always doing something, and you can't just like sit around and watch Netflix, right?
Yeah, no, it's nothing wrong with sitting around. Like we have movie night on Saturday nights, right? But just like wasting time, all we have is time, right? I was born in 1985. There's a dash, and then there's going to be an end date. I don't know when that is, right? So in between that dash should be purpose, right? Hanging out and just enjoying a Netflix show or watching a movie with your family, it's purposeful. You're spending quality time. If you're doing it for 20 hours or if you binge watching just in because you're bored, that's a problem, right? This morning I worked out with my wife and son. That's purposeful, right? Family time, and we're staying fit. That's purpose, right? And so as long as you're staying purposeful, you can do whatever. We sitting here having a conversation. It's purposeful, right? But if we're having a conversation for 20 hours and afterwards, there's no action items, and we just blowing hot smoke, and we're just, this kumbaya, this is the way the world should be. It's not purposeful at that point. There's got to be some kind of action. So as long as we remain purposeful throughout our life, and we're consistently reflecting, I do believe that we can stand up in front of Allah and say, I tried my best. And if you can do that, I think, inshallah, you got a good shot.
We'll end it there because there's no better way to end it. So thank you, and we look forward to round 2.
Ameen.